Shalom and welcome to this week's Hebrew class, and as usual we are going through the book of John in Hebrew, and it is our privilege today to review chapter 20 verses 11 to 14. So let us now begin. And as usual we have the Nakud valve markings with our useful resources for all those who are relatively new and not 100% sure. You can look at the chart to understand how we use the vowels. And for seeking the root words, we need the Hebrew dictionary. So we go to the first one, which, as we can see, is represented with a yod, remembering that all the letters in Hebrew have numerical value, and the yod has a value of 10, the aleph has a value of 1, so in verse 11. Then we go through the letters. Vav, Mem, Resh, Yod, Mem, Safit, Ayin, Mem, Dalet, Hey, Mem, Chet, Vav, Zadi, Safit, Lamed, Kuf, Veit, Resh, Vav, Hey, Yod, Aleph, Veit, Vav, Kaf, Yod, Hey, Vav, Yod, Hey, Yod, Veit, Kaf, Vav, Tav, Hey. Now let's read it. Miryam and Miryam. Amda. She stood. Mi chutz, meaning outside. La kaver, meaning to the tomb. Often they'll just say of the tomb. The he and she, that's the feminine form of who. Right, it's he, and it means she. And she, I added, was vokia. What's vokia? Weeping. If we look down here, bakar is a call verb to cry, to whine, to weep. And then bokia is an adjective meaning weeping, crying, sobbing. It's like a participle, right? He, and it was Viv Kota, in her weeping. Now, it could be translated as while she was weeping, right? In her weeping. If we look down there, Bo Kia was weeping, right? So it's related to that, but it's got the vet in the beginning, so it's in, and then the hey is her, and it's weeping. So, the normal translation is Miryam stood outside the tomb and she wept, and it happened as she wept, or in a weeping. And then we read it now without any aids. Miryam amda michutz la kaver vehi vokia Vehi viv kota. Right, now, often with the kamatz there, it can be actually read as umda rather than amda. Sounds very similar, but when it's a closed syllable, the kamatz often is changed to an O sound. So, now, the translation, therefore, is, and Miryam, she stood outside to the tomb, and she was weeping. And it was in a weeping. And part B, we have a Vav, Tav, Shin, Kuf, Fesofit, Aleph, Lamed, Tav, Vav, Kaf, Sofit, Hey, Kuf, Veit, Resh. So we read it. Vatash kef, and the tav, these are prefixes, and the tav is like feminine form. So, and she peered. So that's what we're looking at. Shekef is a kol verb, PL verb, to reflect, to observe, to peer. And then we have L2, tok, within, right? Now, tok as a masculine noun can mean inside, interior, center, within, or it can also be midst often. ha-kaver, meaning the tomb. And she wept, and she peered into the tomb as she wept. Right? And so let us read that. Va-tash kef el tok ha-kaver. And she peered to within the tomb. And we see we have a yod, value of 10, and a vayet, value of 2. And then we go through the letters. Vav, tav, resh, aleph, shin, nun, yod, mem, lamed, aleph, kaf, yod, mem, savit, lamed, vayet, vav, shin, yod, lamed, vayet, nun, yod, mem, savit, yod, shin, vayet, yod, mem, savit, bayet, mem, kuf, vav, mem, savit. If you're wondering why we always go through the letters, is we want to make the letters so commonplace in our minds that we don't have to think twice about them. Now again, we've got the beginning here, and the tav is telling us it's like feminine, and we see that re at the end comes from ra'e, which means to see, right? And she saw. And it's completed action because of the prefix. Shani, two, or two of, malakim, messengers, levushe, clothed in, levanim, meaning white, because levan we know means white, levanim, right? And then yoshvim, meaning sitting, it's like a participle. And it comes from yeshav, to sit, to dwell, to place, to sit. So sitting, ba makom, in the place. So she saw two angels wearing white sitting in the place. And I've also given you lavush as a masculine noun meaning clothing, attire, dress, garment, or lavush as an adjective meaning clothed, dressed, or clad. Right, now we can read that. Va tere, shene, malakim, levushe, levanim, yoshvim, ba makom. And the direct translation, and she saw two messengers clothed in white sitting in the place. And now we come to part B, which is an aleph, shin, resh, sin, mem, vav, shin, mem, safit, aleph, tav, gimel, vav, fe, tav, yod, he, vav, shin, ayin, aleph, chet, dalet, mem, resh, aleph, shin, vav, tav, yod, vav. And it is asher, and that can be where. We know that asher can be used as where, when, that, whom, who, but in context, where. Samu. Now, some we know means to put or to place. So with the u at the end, they placed. Sham, there. Et is a grammar marker. Gufat, the body of, because it's a construct form, because the feminine noun is gufa, meaning corpse, body, carcass, remains. So the body of Yahushua, or Yahusha, echad, one, me'ra'a shotayev, from its head. Now the vav is a pronoun. It can be his or it, because it's talking about the body now. So, and it is, we can see in the root of it being rosh, if we look at it carefully, right? Meaning head, from its head. And down here I've got rosh as a masculine noun, means head, top, beginning, summit. So therefore, they would say the head of the mountain, meaning the summit, right? And the translation, sitting in the place where they had laid the body of Yeshua there, one at its head. So, let us read that now. Asher, Samu, Sham, et Gufat, Yahushua, Echad, Mera'a, Shotaiv. And the translation, where they placed there the body of Yahushua, one from its head. And now we come to part C. We have a Vav, Aleph, Chet, Dalet, Mem, Resh, Gimel, Lamed, Vav, Tav, Yod, Vav. And we read it. Ve'echad, meaning, and one, Mar, Gelotayev, from its feet. So how do we get that? If we look down here, regel is a feminine noun meaning foot, leg, and it can even mean the stem of a goblet or wine glass. And just out of interest, we've also got regel, which is a PL verb, and it means to spy or to tail. So I just threw that in because sometimes we'll get that and we could be confused with feet or spy. So it's just interesting, that's all. Right, one at its head and one at its foot. That's what we're reading. So let's read it. Echad, Mar Gelotayev, and one from its feet. Now we come to 13, represented with the Yod, Gimel, a Yod and Gimel, which is Yod 10, Gimel is the third letter of the alphabet. And then we get Va Yom Ru, and they said, Eleha, that's a feminine ending, unto her. Isha, meaning woman, Lame, why? Tiv Ki, you are weeping. So, how do we get that? We see down here, Baka is a kal verb to cry, to weep, to whine. Bika is a piel verb to mourn, to lament. And Baki is a masculine noun meaning crying, weeping, lamenting. So they're different forms of the same. And with the Tav, you are weeping, is an accurate translation. Va tomer, and she said. Again, the Tav is feminine. Alehem, unto them. They said to her, woman, why are you weeping? She said to them. And so let us read that. Va yom ru eleha isha la me tiv ki va tomer alehem. And the translation, and they said unto her, woman, why you are weeping? Or, why you are weeping? And she said unto them. And we now come to 13b. And we begin with the letters. Kaf, Yod, Nun, Sin, Aleph, Vav, Mem, Zion, Hey. Aleph, Tav, Aleph, Dalet, Nun, Yod, Vav, Lo, Lamed, Aleph, Yod, Dalet, Ayin, Tav, Yod, Aleph, Yod, Fe, Hey, Nun, Yod, Chet, Hu, Hey, Vav. Just trying to go through it smoothly. And we read, Ki, for, Nasu, they have carried. So if we look down here, we have Nasa, kal verb, to bear, to carry, to lift up. And they have carried. Mize, which could be from this, et grammar marker, Adoni, my master. velo, and not. Yadati, I do know. A fo, meaning where. Hini, who, they have laid him. So let's have a look at hiniach, which is the verb to deposit, to sit down, to lay. And we can see the basic root is nach, which means to rest, right? So you could even put there to rest. It's a hifil form, means a causative action. They have laid him. They've caused to lay him, right? So she said to them, because they have carried away my master from here, and I do not know where they have placed him. So now let us read that. Ki nasu mi ze et Adoni velo yadati efo hini hu. For they have carried from this, Grandma Micah my master, and not I do know where they have laid him. And we come to 14, and we see it's represented with a yod, value of 10, and a dalet, value of 4. And we go through the letters. Vav yod hey yod. Kaf, kaf, lamed, vav, tav, hey. Lamed, dalet, bayet, resh. Zion, aleph, tav. Vav, tav, fe, nun, sofit. Aleph, chet, resh, yod, hey. Vav, tav, resh, aleph. Vehi, and it was, translated often as and it came to pass, but and it was, ke kalota, like, that's like the kaf at the end, like she, which is the hey at the end, and then kalot, which is finished. So ke kalota, like she finished. Le daber, meaning to speak. So daber is always to speak, not the word for word, which is davar. This is daber, to speak. Zot, this. Va te fen. And again, the tav is she, and then we've got the root being fen, right? And it's usually fana or so, and it means, and she turned. Achareha, behind her. Well, we can see that achare means after. After meaning behind, right? To the back. Behind her, and the hey again is her. Va-te-re. And she saw, again that's a verb, and with the tav it's feminine, so, and she saw, because we know re'e as before meant to see. And so I've got here kala, which is a kal verb, to be finished, to be completed, and achare, which often means after, but it can also mean backward or behind. So, now the English is, and it came to pass, when she finished speaking this, she turned behind her and she saw. Now let's read that. Vehi ke kalota le daber zot va te fen achareha va te re. And it was like she finished to speak this, and she turned behind her, and she saw. And 14b, we have Vav, Hey, Nun, Hey, Yod, Hey, Vav, Shin, Ayin, Mem, Dalet, Vav, Lamed, Aleph, Yod, Dalet, Ayin, Hey, Kaf, Yod, Yod, Hey, Vav, Shin, Ayin, Hey, Vav, Aleph. Now let's read it. V'hine, and behold, Yeshua, Omed, was standing. Because it's a participle, right? Often it's said as standing, Yeshua. So, and behold, Yeshua standing. So, was standing. V'lo, and not Yada, again the he is a feminine form, she did know, ki that Yahushua or Yahusha, who he or he is or was, and saw and behold Yeshua standing there. But she did not know that he was Yeshua. And let's read it. V'hine Yahushua Omed v'lo yada ki Yahushua hu. And behold, Yeshua was standing, and not she did know that Yeshua he. And finally, now we come to our revision, and let us see what we've learnt. We know that Yod is value of 10. We know Aleph is value of 1. We know we're in 11. And we go, Miryam and Miryam. Omda, she stood, Mikhutz, outside, La Kever, to the tomb. For he and she, Vokia, was weeping. Vahi, and it was, Viv Kota, in her weeping. And Miryam, she stood outside to the tomb, and she was weeping, and it was in her weeping, or when she was weeping. Vatash Kef, and she peered. L2 Tok, the midst or the inside. Ha-ka-ver, of the tomb. And she peered to within the tomb. Yod 10, Veyat 2, we're in 12. Va-tere, and she saw, Shanei, two Malakim, messengers, in English angels, Levushe, clothed in, Levanim, white, Yoshvim, sitting, Ba-makom, in the place. And she saw two messengers, clothed in white, sitting in the place. And we're in part B, and it is Asher, which is normally, it could be where, if we take the context, where. Samu, they placed. Sham, there. Et grammar marker Gufat, which is the body of Yahushua. Echad, one. Mera'ah Shotav, which is like from its head, or his head, from its head, where they placed there the body of Yahushua, one from its head. The Echad, and one Mar Gelotav, from its feet, and one from its feet. And then we have a Yod 10, Gimel 3, which is 13, Vayomru, and they said, Eleha, unto her, Isha, woman, Lame, why, Tiv, Ki, you weep, or you're weeping, Va Tomer, and she said, Alehem, unto them. And they said unto her, woman, why you're weeping? And she said unto them, Ki for nasu, they have carried or carried away. Mize, from this, et, grammar marker, Adoni, my master, velo, and not yadati, I do know, fo, where, hini, who, they've laid him. For they've carried from this, grammar marker, my master, and not, I do know, where they've laid him. And we have a Yod 10, Dalet 4 and 14. Vehi, and it was, ke kalota, like her finishing, le daber, to speak, zot this, va tefen, and she turned, echareha, behind her, meaning after her or behind her, va tere, and she saw, and it was, like she finished to speak this, and she turned behind her, and she saw, Vehine, and behold, Yeshua, Omed, was standing, velo, and not yada, she did know, ki, that Yeshua, who, he. And behold, Yeshua was standing, and not she did know, that Yeshua, he. And that brings us to the conclusion of this part. And of course, now we see the chart that we need to try to remember, so we know the different vowel markings and how they're used. If we look at the first line, we have a kamatz. Kamatz is like a long A sound, so it's kamatz. And then we have a patak. It's a shorter A sound. Then we have zere, which is a longer, like E sound, ze. Then we have a segol, a shorter E sound. Then we have a shva, which is the sort of form that it takes to break the word up into its syllables. Sometimes with the shva, it can be a silent one. Often when it's the end of a syllable, or when it's the beginning, it is got an E sound, a short E sound after it. Then we have cholam, so we can hear the O sound. That's the sound that it makes. Cho. Okay, that will do for this week. And then finally we have our resources again, because they're so important to use the resources. Otherwise we don't fully grasp the root word and the understanding of it. Now let us look at this line as far as the values of the letters go. And we see that the Zade has a value of 90. Fe, they call it Pev, but we call it Pei or Fe, has a value of 80. Iron has a value of 70. Samek has a value of 60. Nun has a value of 50. And Mem has a value of 40. So each week we go through these and we pick some out, and we just try to get so used to it that when we see it, we know its value. And so I just thank you for joining us, and I do pray that these lessons truly bless you, that you begin to have a real passion for learning Hebrew, as we have done over the years. And we're all learning together. So no one's an expert, but as we learn more and more, we get more understanding of it, and eventually we might even understand when we hear people speaking Hebrew. But for now, we're trying to learn to read the scriptures in its Hebraic form, which hopefully will help us understand the more of the culture, more of the scriptures. So we just like to give you thank you in the name of Yeshua for joining us. And we wish you a Shavua Tov, a great and glorious week. Amen.